Mr. Fennick, did you go to the folk festival this year?
You're asking me a question?
Yeah. You are John Fennick, right?
Yes. Where are you asking, did I go?
To the folk festival.
Yes, I did. It was in Western Connecticut. And had a really, really good time. And in about two weeks, I'm heading to West Virginia.
Who's the headliner at that?
Off the top of my head, I'm going to say Curly Taylor.
Okay. Where was the one? What was the one in Pennsylvania?
Oh no, it was in Connecticut, and it was in Goshen, Connecticut.
Yeah, but was there one in Connecticut? Because Sean told me him and Jeremiah went to one, and the headliner was the Cajun fiddle player.
I think he might have gone to the same one as I did.
Yeah, that guy's a practitioner. That's what I wanted. He's actually at the 3 Honor Retreat. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Matt. It's so obvious that Matt is back. Okay, it is so obvious. Jesus. Oh my God.
Hey, Stuart. Hey, Mom.
Oh, Stuart.
Soccer chafe. Oh my God!
Todd.
I'm so happy to see your face.
Todd's here. Hey, Mary. Sean.
That's happening. This is happening. This is happening.
Andrew Chav.
All right.
Hello.
Hi. Let me check one more thing, and then I'll be right there.
We're becoming multimedia, by the way. We're now on YouTube. I just got a really great briefing. This is like a global happening. So exciting. But read it.
Nice. Okay. Hey, everybody. We're going to talk about the 4 Immeasurables. Thank you for the audience topic idea. Appreciate it. 4 Immeasurables: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Luckily, Michael agreed to come talk with us all about it. It's conversation, open conversation. This is not a lecture, so, let's all chime in. But you did, I signed it this up. You mentioned this is your favorite topic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Buddhist topics. Why is this your favorite topic?
Well, I think this is true for a lot of us here. I've been studying Buddhism, I think, since 1970. That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it can burn your mind out. Look at Matt. Look what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just terrible.
Cautionary tale.
But no, it can get very complicated. There's all kinds of systems and outlines and teachings. And when you find a teaching that's able to distill the Mahayana, the Bodhisattva path, down into 4 simple phrases that can unpack into very powerful ways, for me, it's simplified my life. It makes life very, very simple, very clear. And it also resonates to a great degree with the way I was raised as a Christian, to be kind and to help others and that kind of thing. So it's always brought everything together for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a little bit on each of the 4, and then maybe sort of how they work together. How about we start with equanimity? Equanimity.
What do you want to know?
So in some of the Buddhist topics, there's I forget the main word, but there's like a topic and then an antidote. It often sounds like equanimity is sort of the antidote or the positive antidote to passion, aggression, and ignorance. It's or more like aggression to me. It sounds, instead of preference and continually being unhappy with the current situation, It's in training and accepting things as they are.
Well, no, I think there's layers. There's layers to all of these, which is also why I think they're extremely helpful teaching. But what I would say about equanimity is it does correspond to the paramita prajna. And, often when we think of equanimity, it's kind of like, a truck running me over or a flower, they're all the same, No. What it means, well, at least, and you guys can say, no, you're wrong, Michael, of course. It isn't so much that everything is equal, it's that you're willing to taste everything completely, that you're open.
So it is one taste.
It's one taste, essentially. That's what we're getting at, is that you have the courage to open to life completely on its terms and be touched by life completely. And the poison is being biased, or you see people like believing their opinions. Bob's an asshole. Well, that's true. It's got to be true. I thought it. No. That's an opinion. It has nothing to do with Bob. It has to do with your version of reality. And you ought to give Bob a chance. Open to Bob. So equanimity is really a wisdom of being utterly available to the immediacy of your experience and seeing it clearly, which is prajna.
And it didn't sound necessarily that each four, how to say this, it sounded maybe like loving kindness could be an intention and compassion is more of a cultivated practice. And I wonder if equanimity is a result or a cultivated practice.
Well, again, from my point of view, and people, please press the little hand button if you go, hey, I got a better idea.
Or a question.
Yeah, whatever. Look, just pull back a little bit. Looking at these teachings, I think there's three levels. One is aspirational. One is practices, things you do, literally you do. And the other is embodiment, right? We're used to hearing the aspiration, may all beings enjoy happiness and the root of happiness be. So we aspire, there's a sense of vision that we aspire to helping others. But the issue of developing them is I would encourage us to look at how do you embody them. How do you literally embody loving kindness? The embodiment is both the fruition and the ground in a sense, meaning the embodiment of kindness is gentleness. That one, and a metaphor I use often is having a little robin's egg, in your hand. You see a robin's egg. To this day, I see a little robin's egg. It's like, dude, this is the coolest thing. It's turquoise. How could that be turquoise in the middle of everything? But when you pick it up, you don't just pick it up. You put it in your hand, and there's a sense of gentleness from the point of view of appreciation. Mm-hmm. So the very core quality of kindness is this appreciation of your world, the tenderness and kindness toward your world, gentleness toward your world. So it's the same for all four of them. You develop each one. So compassion, the embodiment of compassion is sadness. That there's a sense of you've been touched by the suffering of others. And you feel it. Yeah, go ahead.
Mary, do you
Go ahead, Mary.
have something to say?
Well, when I first studied these, I heard a meditation teacher say that equanimity is the exchange of oneself for another. So that meant that you had an immediate sense of interdependence with equanimity.
Well, I think that exchanging oneself for another, from the point of view of being open to your world, is a fundamental Lojong discipline in Tonglen. And I think Pema was called Tonglen on the Run.
Oh.
Tonglen on the Run, where you see someone suffering, and you immediately want to take that on and exchange it. And I sense maybe what the teacher was saying, Mary, was you would only recognize that if you were open enough to see it wisely, which is what equanimity is.
Right. Yeah, well, I interpreted it as I had to let go of my bias against others.
Yeah, I think that's a wise way of hearing it.
Did it work?
Me too.
Did it work, Mary?
Still working on it.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, no, it's really just a one-shot deal. All of this is a one-shot deal. Right? You get it, boom, you're done. You know what I'm saying?
So the embodiment of compassion is sadness.
Mm-hmm. I would encourage that. That's why
Let's do that. What are the embodiments of the other two? So loving kindness is gentleness. The embodiment of compassion is sadness. The embodiment of sympathetic joy
is cheering up.
Yeah.
Is cheering up. And the metaphor I use for that is going to a dog park.
Right.
You've heard this before.
Yeah, but somebody has it.
You go to a dog park. Everybody's happy. The dogs, the neighbors, even the people walking by looking at the dog park. There's joy. It's spontaneously, and you smile. So there's a sympathetic. It's almost like a contagion of bliss.
Yeah,
the light is contagious.
We found a huge dog park by my parents' house in Connecticut. And there is a massive mud puddle in the middle. And every time I'm like, don't do it this time. Don't do it. And like she gets chased, our dog, and eventually just runs right through the mud puddle. Like,
Yeah.
It's still funny. But yeah.
But the dog is loving it.
Yeah.
It's mud.
She doesn't do, some of the dogs just walk over to it and just lay down.
Right.
It's always a white dog.
And then when they lay a white dog, and the person who owns the dog is bummed out, what do? They laugh.
Yeah.
So but it's important, and I'll get to the other one in a minute. Often, as Buddhists, we place a real heavy emphasis on compassion, which is completely understandable. But in this teaching, sympathetic joy is just as important as sadness. Cheering up is just as vital for being on the bodhisattva path as sadness. But we have Matt DeRodia with his hands up. Matt, what do you have to say?
Well, I like where Bill started in regards to equanimity being actually, there's a whole bunch of writings on Lojong, right? And different historically. And some people approach from the absolute, you start absolute, like how Trungpa Rinpoche taught in Training the Mind. One does the absolute. So equanimity is an absolute, like you said, Michael, it's prajna, it's seeing emptiness, or there's no self. So where Mary is talking about, if one has some sense of equanimity, of genuine one taste, there's no you, there's no me, there's no action, there's just this, just that. The other thing I wanted to say was in regards to sympathetic joy, my understanding has always been actually how one can not be jealous of others, and that you're happy for someone else to, get the goods. Like, Michael always looks better than me, so, I'm happy for him.
I also have a better attitude than you do, too. So.
Yeah, well, this is true. I mean, it's nice that you're here and I don't have to horn in on you, right?
I know.
But just as working with one's jealousy, actually, or one's, why did they get the promotion and I didn't get the promotion? I'm probably more, and actually that one develops some sense of non-centralized meanness, that you're more concerned about others, and that sympathetic joy is that you're genuinely happy that someone has whatever it is, got the best ice cream cone, got the best promotion.
Well, I think what I would say to that, Matt, is one of the reasons why I love these teachings is there's layers to them from the three ana approach. And in this case, these teachings help us deconstruct our self-deception at the Hinayana level. That selfishness, acquisitiveness, arrogance. It helps us deconstruct those misunderstandings. But there's also, as you are well aware, there's the Vajrayana element to it, which is sudden joy. Sudden joy. One of the things I've given some encouragement to people who are often depressed. Your assignment this week is to count how many times you see other people having joy. You have to count it. I want the numbers, and I need descriptions of the experience. And almost invariably, people come back, all right, I saw Mom hugging his kid, and they were laughing. So, that's these practices of working with one's confusion is very powerful. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
It's not just a Buddhist thing, too, because these came actually from the Hindu, the four Brahma Viharas.
Yeah.
And
the Buddha taught it. The Buddha taught it. There were two Brahmins arguing over how do you get closer to God. And he tried to mediate an argument between these two Brahmins, and these came up on how to live these in order to get closer to God. And there was a little emptiness conversation because he goes, "Have you ever seen Brahma?" And one guy goes, "No, I haven't." Said, "What about you? Did you ever see him?" And he goes, "I haven't either." I said, "Well, that's your path. You're going somewhere you don't even know if it's there." Anyway,
yeah. Let's do the embodiment of equanimity.
The embodiment of equanimity, in my experience, I'm not saying everybody believes this, right, is vulnerability.
Oh.
Now, when here's vulnerability, we typically we see it as a kind of a situation that you would prefer not to be in, or it's look out. Here we're talking more about being totally open and available to the situation completely. And, a lot of the most recent research with, her name is slipping my mind, it'll come to me, is that vulnerability is the source of creativity, is the source of wisdom. Susan Brown, is it Brown? And she said, anybody,
what?
You know what I'm talking about? Anybody out there know the woman who's written on vulnerability? I can't believe this. It's really good stuff. You got to go online and find out the name of this person.
Okay.
But nonetheless, the issue in vulnerability is there's highly attuned openness that is like a martial arts. It's almost like being a martial artist. You're in touch with everything. That is kind of the embodiment of it. It's not just above the neck, prajna.
Mm-hmm.
It's prajna as a bodily wisdom in your world. Yeah.
So, someone, Brene Brown.
Brene Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amelia Black. Awesome
Thank you,
name.
Amelia. Where's Amelia? Where is she? There she is.
Oh.
I think we've been emailing or something about the refuge or something. So yeah, it's good to see you.
Where do we start with these? Someone hears this like, oh, this sounds good. I should work on these four.
Mm. Well, I'm a big believer in the sitting meditation.
Sure.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree with that. And I also, in the way I feel I've been trained by Moriarty, is that the actual sitting meditation cultivates the Four Immeasurables. So if you look at loving kindness, for example, in the meditation, there is what Trungpa Rinpoche calls touch and go.
Mhm.
He teaches it in many ways, but one of the primary ways is how do you touch who you are before you let go and open. And there's a tenderness there. There's a tenderness toward oneself that begins to occur, which is referred to as Maitri. That tenderness towards yourself is the seed of kindness to others. And then you have, I have to look at my notes here. No, that's right. Then you have this quality of letting go, and then you open, right? And that opening quality is what I associate with sadness. That you're able to be touched by your world, you know. So these all go, you know, each the quality of these are cultivated. So like when you come to the present moment, for example, in the sitting meditation, you'll notice that it happens suddenly. I assume everyone knows that when you escort your attention to the present moment, you can't wander in. You'll notice you're like there. And it has a certain kind of energy to it. And we talk about it as like leaping, a little leaping. That energy is the seed of joy. And then the final one is once you figure out boredom,
Mhm.
and you're sitting there like this for 8 hours. See, I know on podcasts and stuff, it's not cool to do that.
No, do what you want.
No. You're sitting there. It's boring. You're just sitting there. That's kind of the seed of vulnerability, that you're willing to be available to your experience completely. So I'm a big believer in the sitting meditation as the seed syllable of these. And part of it is because, and this is Longchenpa goes into great detail in this in his teaching, is we're hardwired for these.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something you have to develop. This is something you reveal. We're hardwired for kindness, compassion, joy, and vulnerability. We're hardwired. So it's a matter of just letting these unfold. Not letting unfold. I mean, we have to work at it, obviously, but it's more of a revealing exercise than it is doing push-ups, so to speak.
And I've read that sometimes the sympathetic joy can feel like a more difficult one to practice in day-to-day life, as there's a lot, people like me might have some jealousy. Is there particular slogans? No, just
Dude, you don't seem jealous at all.
No, it's one of those, after practicing for a long time now, when a habit comes up, like this one again. So once in a while, no, every day, that will like come up almost the same time every day. Like, okay, here we go again. Here we go again. Are there, since you said Lojong a few times, are there slogans associated with each of these four? Is there a slogan associated with sympathetic joy or cultivating sympathetic joy?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think it's organized that way, but there are, as a bodhisattva practice, there are different sympathetic joy, loving kindness there are practices for developing Maitri and expressing that toward your world. Some of them are very simple, I mean, I love random act of kindnesses. I mean, you just make sure you treat someone with politeness and kindness and do it. And if you're a cranky pants and you have to do it, count it 5 times a day. All right, we got
Stuart, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So this is a question sort of wrapped into an observation. Prior to working on the sitting practice, there's this illusion that I always had, which is I'm the hero of my own story, and I'm valiantly moving through life, and I write about all these things. Then you begin to practice. For 10 years go by, and you realize that there's a flaw in that mythology. One of which is you're not separate from everything else that's going on. In fact, all the difficulties that are coming into my life seem to be the opportunities to learn something about yourself, especially the things that are difficult. So when you're practicing sitting, the outgoing breath, which is what I think of as a vehicle for equanimity. It's the ability to touch and taste what's really happening. It's just great. It's great. And it is a vehicle also for sympathetic joy. However, reality often provides many opportunities to learn about the things that I've gotten wrong, which gives me a sadness. In that sadness, there's a hard distance between where I'm sitting and being able to be joyful. So what is the vehicle to get on, or what is a good practice to get on to drop that sense of, you know what I'm, do you understand what I'm saying?
Let me say. One, it's not that we prefer sympathetic joy over the sadness. The issue is they are all noble. And part of, I'll speak for myself, you know, I had to put my cat down a week ago, you know, and I did. Loving an animal the way we love pets, different than loving your dad or your mom. And I love my dad and mom, I still miss him. But it's so unconditional. I'm the saddest guy in the world. I walk through my house, dude, and my cat's gone. It breaks my heart. But I don't, you know, I'm just, you know, it's a noble feeling. So that's what I heard. But that from you, Stuart, that we might prefer sympathetic joy. The issue is just being open to your life. If sadness is there, it's sad. But the other thing, Stuart, is being disappointed in ourselves makes me sad. But I don't have to hit myself with a spiritual rubber hose. I don't have to be aggressive to myself. We all make mistakes, you know, and it makes me sad if I hurt someone's feelings, or if I regret that I said something, or that I was stubborn. I'm never stubborn. I'm arrogant? Never, ever. I mean, that is just so not me. But, you know, when I experienced those in my recollections, yeah, it's disappointing, but you don't have to hit yourself with a rubber hose, Stuart.
I think we have to always remember that, you know, these are habitual mind this ain't the only time we've done this. And, you know, it's so ingrained, and it's the kindness we need to work with ourselves, and the warmth that we need to open by just being gentle. You know, there are a number of Lojong practice slogans that, you know, if you go through them, you'll see that Tralog Rinpoche mentions it actually quite a bit in a number of them. But just the very thing you're just mentioning, Stuart, about being hard on yourself, or you screwed up, you know, it's a long process. And like Michael said, it's not a one-shot deal. You know, it's just a smoothing of just gently opening and letting go.
Yeah, it's a journey. I think they call it a bodhisattva path or something. Hey, Sean, what were you going to say, Sean? Didn't you have your hand raised?
Yeah, but I think I answered my own question. I'm still in the process of contemplating what has come up for me, and I'd like to just rest with that internally instead of coming to any kind of conclusion on that. So,
Well, thank you for modeling that for Matt. I appreciate that.
sorry, that wasn't intended.
Now, if you guys don't know yet, I'm so happy that Matt's back. So I have my foil, and he can goof on me too. So thank you. Yeah, you know, I wanted to bring up one thing. Everyone should go online. I have not met Khandro Rinpoche.
K-H-A-N-D-R-O.
Khandro Rinpoche. I have not met her. I've heard a lot about her. Maybe some of you have her as your teacher. I know some of my friends do. But if you go online and just look the Four Immeasurable Qualities by Khandro Rinpoche, you can print this out. And I read it over the past few days, and one of her voice is just so good. I mean, it's so available and just such a good teacher. But one of the things she said in there was one of the core foundations for the Four Immeasurables is to contemplate that all beings have been your mother in the past. And in there, she says, I gotta tell you, and it's literal. She goes, it's literal, it's a literal teaching. And she says in there, he goes, I gotta tell you, I've always had a problem with that. I mean, how could every being have been my mother and I've been their mother? I mean, come on, how could that happen? And she has a nice discussion in there about it. But I actually have been contemplating this recently about like every amoeba, every duck, every giraffe, every mosquito been my mother and I've been their mother. And because there's trillions of beings out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking a physicist, and if you believe in reincarnation, right, that we all go back into the substrate and then we come out of it again, kind of thing. And I was asking a physicist, if there's an infinite number of beings and it's timeless, like there's no time, doesn't exist, and they all have to give birth, and beings go back in and come back out again, but they only can be reborn. Is it likely statistically, if there's an infinite number and it's timeless, that we've all given birth to one another? And he said, yes, probably mathematically, if it's an infinite number and it's timeless, yeah. Cool. So anyway, the issue of that teaching that Rinpoche gets into here is the quality of tenderness toward others, whether it's a mosquito or a giraffe, is that the love of a mother toward a child, that unconditional tenderness, is an underlying dynamic to this practice of the Four Immeasurables. We all have access to it, obviously, but she accents it in there quite in a fun way. That's all. And I would just encourage you to get a hold of that teaching. You can print it out. Really worth reading, cover to cover, what she has to say.
Do you find when I listen to a lot of Zansar Khyentse Rinpoche, the topic of compassion, do you find people have a lot of initial misconceptions about what the Buddhist approach to compassion is about?
Yeah, I do. I can say, having taught meditation in business settings often, as soon as you are in front of a bunch of executives and you say something like, you should have more compassion as a leader, I would say somewhere around 75% of the people in the room immediately look at their watch. It's like, it's mere, I got business to do with the compassion already. If, on the other hand, you say to them, one of the core responsibilities of a leader is to inspire the best in others, everybody goes, yeah, well, that's true. You gotta
That's
do
what
that.
I do.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm around my mind. So the issue is really framing the natural impulse to be human, to be compassionate in a language that invites us to participate. And I think the word compassion, particularly in modern capitalist American culture, is often looked at as, we'll go to church for that. Can I get back to reality?
Well, how would you say the two that seem kind of similar to me here are loving kindness and compassion?
Yeah.
Right. Where sympathetic joy and equanimity feel not like way over there, but like, oh, I see a distinction. How would you teach these as distinct?
Well, compassion is a desire to relieve someone of suffering. And loving kindness is a deep and tender appreciation for the other. right? So it's like I'm almost like marveling at the beauty of something, you know. It's a deep respect for just the elegance and beauty and presence, and wanting to sort of appreciate at a very tender level. Whereas suffering is, compassion is wanting to take the suffering away. And in order to take the suffering away, you have to appreciate it. And when grief to me is to this day terrifying. I just it has no bottom. Right now I don't even know what to say. It takes a lot of courage to go into that level of sadness. Period. Whereas it's lots easier to look at a little kid and go, dude, you have such beautiful hair. Oh, there's Sean. He's coming back. What's going on, Sean?
Okay, now I think I could maybe ask my question based on a little more information that you just provided with regard to the relationship of compassion and loving kindness. Because initially what came to mind is how they relate and whether there's some similarity. And as I contemplated, what came to mind is the four limitless ones, and how maybe compassion for me, as you stated, relates more to the feeling of based on the suffering, and through my own personal experience of suffering, I can feel that compassion for others who are suffering.
Right.
And that the loving kindness aspect is more of the wanting them to be happy and wishing them well. And getting to your list of embodiments, I'm not sure you touched upon the embodiment of loving kindness, but at least if you did, I overlooked that. But to me, it almost seems like the loving kindness also, the compassion could be more of a feeling, but the loving kindness is more of actuality.
Well,
If that makes.
No, I hear you. How I've been working with these dynamics and teaching them is the notion of embodiment of them as a primary ground, and the embodiment of loving kindness is gentleness. So, for example, if you were changing the diaper of a baby, you don't just. You're like you sing and you wipe the butt, even though who would want to wipe a human being's butt, for God's sake? But there's a kind of an appreciation and a joy and a kind of tenderness toward the baby, and it's like hugging a grandmother. You hug a grandmother. There's a tenderness and an appreciation. That's loving kindness. Whereas suffering, compassion is seeing. I just talked to a friend who I don't want to say too much, but nonetheless has discovered that she's probably going to pass away soon, quickly, and she has friends, and. It's not good, and she's scared. And I'm going in that territory with her is very scary for me because the sadness of her saying goodbye to her two boys. It's like, dude, that's like serious. What do you do? It's just so big. I'm not very good there. But I try, and as we all do. But the sadness there is much different than hugging a grandmom that you love. But that's our job as Bodhisattva path. Our job is to go into both those territories completely, totally, almost unflinchingly.
Something you said around that is that as Bodhisattvas, it's our responsibility to embody these four.
Well,
You said it because I wrote it down. Like, whoa, that's intense.
Well, I think it's a responsibility in the sense that we're hardwired for them, that to express our sanity to the world is our responsibility. Now, we could go the opposite out of fear. We could be opinionated, impoverished, arrogant, condescending, stupid. Yeah, we could do that. Our responsibility is to deconstruct those misunderstandings and bring these qualities of being human to their full measure, which, by the way, is called enlightenment.
And for subjects of compassion, there's one of my, I can find a link for everyone later, that one of my favorite Dzongsa Rinpoche talks on YouTube. He talks a lot about surprising subjects of compassion. And he was saying in one of the, I don't know if it was a sutra, he was like, morality is a subject of compassion. And he's like, what do you think about that? But because I know when we talk about dying, that seems like a clear place where you're like, compassion is needed here. But when you can also recognize just patterns of mind that lead to suffering, right? Like
That are worthy of our compassion, you mean?
Yeah, or are subjects for extending compassionate intention.
And what I think I know why Rinpoche brought it up, but why do you think Rinpoche brought up that morality would be a subject for our compassion?
Well, he said in the beginning of this hour and a half long talk, he was getting fed up with people who were coming up to him complaining about Donald Trump. And he's like, these are people who've taken their bodhisattva vow. He's like, let me tell you something. And then he went on for an hour and a half of like where compassion begins and where it extends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, witnessing madness, and witnessing, cruelty is difficult, obviously. And I do believe that what we're seeing right now is uniquely impressive. Not just Donald Trump. I think that the global situation is in a spiraling crisis for a variety of reasons, which I won't get into. And it is impressive, truly impressive. But it doesn't have to blind us. It doesn't have to blind us. And I think I've said this before, that the story, and I forget her name. I have to get it and I tattoo it inside my brain. You might remember.
Okay.
It's a woman. She was a cellist, classical. Yeah, I know. I gotta write it. I gotta tattoo it on my own. She was a cellist.
Bad reference.
Bad reference. She was a cellist and was put into a concentration camp where she played her cello. In order to not seduce people in, because this was different than Auschwitz, but to create an environment for the guards and everyone, in the midst of this. And she was also a poet, and she wrote beautiful poetry. And one of the lines in the poem that is stuck with me for a long time is, "Let it be said that we sipped beauty in the midst of horror." That is the responsibility of a bodhisattva. Our job is to sip beauty in the midst of this spiritual crisis. And I think Rinpoche might be getting at that, Trungpa Rinpoche would always go, cheer up. You have toes, they move. That's like amazing. We get wet. It's like, it is amazing. Get in the shower, it's amazing. Now, as I'm old, it's not as amazing as it used to be. I look at myself, I go, oh my God, but still, getting in the shower and getting wet, there's joy inherently woven into the very fabric of everything that's occurring here. And it's our responsibility to touch that. Emily. Amelia. Yeah, go say.
Hello. I didn't know how to raise my hand virtually, so
That works.
Cool.
thank you.
Sure.
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
And I just wanted to share the Four Immeasurables because obviously I have them tattooed and I think we talk about it, so that's my list.
Wow.
And I've been
Wow.
very deep practice. We met at your place, I think, last Sunday.
Oh,
And I've been reading Pima's children's book, Places That Scare You, where she goes into actually instruction and description of four immeasurables. And I just like sort of go back, and I was reading about sympathetic joy. And, you know, like that antidote to jealousy, I struggle with that. And I have to say that, you know, I find it helpful as an antidote to that kind of, because there's like that dissatisfaction of who, you know, my life. But also Pima was talking about sympathetic joy as an appreciation for one's life. And rejoicing in good fortune, good intelligence, and what we have, and kind of starting from that. And then she was talking about like really kitchen sink, like how we brush our teeth, appreciation for pots and pans. And I was like scrubbing my dirty kitchen, and I was like, wow, like I have this kitchen and this house and this body, and you know, that kind of thing, or just like appreciating the beautiful sun and the weather, you know, and kind of building from that. So I found it so joyful and uplifting, you know. And my question to you is, how do we like practice it in a sitting meditation formally? When? And also, you know, like practicing on the spot, like on the run, you said. Like, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts and instructions?
well, I think that formally, the Tong Lin practice, if you haven't received that instruction, I think that is a good foundational Mahayana practice, you know, and it really deepens these teachings. In terms of on the run, you know, I you know, there are a lot of practices. Longchenpa goes into it. Rinpoche goes into it in her teaching, so I would encourage people to get that. But for me personally, it's almost like an organic, poetic way of living one's life. And it really has to do with how you witness your world. You know, I'll never forget this experience. I lived in New York City, and right next to my apartment was a Jehovah's Witness place. And every Sunday, I loved it because people would come to Jehovah's Witness and they would be dressed up beautifully. It was just, I just loved it. And I loved them. They'd all try to convert me all the time. It was a lot of fun for me to talk with them. And this one day, I was watching, and a woman was walking along. She had her
Walker?
No, what do you call a carriage? And she was dressed up in white. She was an African woman, very dark skin. She had beautiful white dress on, and her son was holding on to the carriage, and the carriage had a nice, beautiful cloth on the baby, and the kid had a suit on. And it was a little guy, maybe 5 years old, or whatever, 4. And he looked just elegant. I was like, man, look at how beautiful that those people are. And I was just marveling. And as she was pushing, the cloth got caught in the wheel, and it fell on the ground, and she didn't notice. And the little boy noticed, and he didn't want to let go of the thing. He was trying to get it. And he let go, and he picked it up, and his mother noticed that he had let go, and she grabbed him and smacked him in the face and said, don't ever let go of that again. And right now, I still feel it. The karma that happened there at that moment, everyone's intentions were pure and good, and they were beautiful beings. She just harmed that little boy in a way that would never go away. And I've savored it to this day, and it's still inside of me. So my point to everyone here is, let the melody of circumstance be your teacher. The practice of these is happening all around us all the time.
Actually, traditionally, Amelia, one actually does memorize these things and they pop up so between the melody of life presenting itself, they pop up. But, one of the teachers, Jackie Merrill's teacher, not Sangzar, but
Carroll.
Kentro Lojo Tae, his book on Lojong, he really makes a point, and Tralog Rinpoche makes a point of that you memorize these things.
Yeah, but
And that you
Amelia doesn't
kinda-
want to. She doesn't want to memorize them. She wants to tattoo them on her arm.
How many arms and legs? You got a lot to go, though, sister. But I think myself, I'm a little more traditional than Michael. A lot more. But I would really consider that and work with that. Certainly, I just came out of a very long retreat, a year-long retreat, and Trongul Rinpoche kind of designed the 3-year retreat. That Lojong practices were part every day, every session. They're called tuns. A tun is a session, right? 4 sessions a day. Well, every practice you did, you actually spent about 10 to 20 minutes on Lojong. So I've read those things over and over, but how they would pop up, because I tell you, living with 11 other people in a very small space and intense, it wears. And you find out how creepy you are and not very nice. And, things like, sympathetic joy is really, they point to things, and you're constantly being pointed to your own. It's a mirror, right? It's a continual mirror. So, think about that. Think about actually committing to spending some time of, you're going to reread these over and over and over. It's like coming back to your being present. Out, dissolve gap, touch and go.
Can I just quickly pick your brain, because I have been sitting and practicing them. So I just wonder, like, when we start a sitting meditation, do I set up time and just like for 15 minutes do it, or do I do it as a part of like a shamatha practice? That's just like how it's traditionally practiced.
What I've been doing since I've been back from a retreat myself is that I actually dedicate like 10 minutes, but it seems I always try and do some Tonglen, right? Always, every sitting session. So I do, and I've been just working on just a couple, and just take one, and just, you read, you contemplate. So I would personally, I don't know how long your sitting sessions are, but some of the time I would dedicate to actually looking at the Lojong practice, or these four immeasurable, and then kind of sift it out and make that discovery.
And just to add something short, I'll tell you what I found, Amelia, in my day-to-day life. These seem to come up in me being willing to slow down just a little bit. Like I'm rushing to get the coffee for the meeting, which is in 2 minutes, and like someone else is rushing, like be the one who's willing to just pause and like let the other person go first. Or clearly you see someone who's really dressed up very nicely. You can tell like they look happy about something. Just being the one willing to give a compliment, or somebody looks sad and like you can not be in such a rush and pause and just actually ask them how they're doing. I've been doing that for a couple of years. It seems very appreciated by everybody, especially in like a work situations, usually where I'm thinking of.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful example. It really is.
Thanks.
I think that's a great thing. You forget these little gestures that we make to people.
Yeah, what gratitude practice that's something that has infected me. I mean, I saw these guys on the street the other day doing all these trees. Trees fell all over the place. They're working at 11 o'clock at night with lights, and you drive past. You just put the window down and go, "Hey guys, thank you. Thank you for making my street safe." Hey, well, why not?
Yeah. No, I think people, it's funny when I left my job here at Sheets, how people came up all the time and said, just
Shouldn't you be
those
working?
little things, interactions with people.
He said, "Hey, man,
Did you get fired?
you get fired. What in the bathroom? It needs a little sun in here, Matty boy."
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Wait, hold on, man. Sean, did you want to say something more?
Yeah, I have a book that I'd like to recommend that I have found very helpful, which I refer to every morning regarding commentaries on Lojong slogans, and it's called Intelligent Heart by Zigor Kongtrul Rinpoche.
That's good. Thank you. And I don't have that one. So is that a
It's
commentary?
wonderful.
It's a complete commentary on all of them, Matt? Is that right, Sean? Is that correct? Is it?
It is a very,
Oh, I got it.
very, very thorough commentary on every one of them.
Thank you.
Presented in a way that is very, for me, has been very helpful.
Great.
Yeah, it's really quite good.
Thank you.
Can someone do the thing where they find it and put it in the chat? Very helpful, people. Thank you.
Intelligent Heart
Hmm.
by Zigor Kongtrul Rinpoche.
Wow. Any other questions or comments from the group? Yeah, Christy.
Hi, everybody. I'm just thinking about this idea of how we try to ramp up these feelings of what compassion is or what gentleness is. And in my experience with learning these slogans and practices is that I couldn't feel them initially. And I actually hated, I was like a bad Buddhist. Like when we had to do this kind of practice, I hated it. I was like, I don't want to even think about this stuff. I want to just tell me about the nature of mind, like tell me the answers to the big questions kind of thing. And, but what I'm finding is that the more that my hard shell breaks down, that these things are just there. And so catching myself in the ego and in the defensiveness or the, building myself up and all of those things that we do, the more that falls away, that the heart, the tenderness, the vulnerability, the pure joy for someone else is just present. And it's just interesting to me that it's not anything we ramp up, it's just this thing that's there. We have to slough off this stuff. So now these slogans, these practices are like my most favorite thing. So, because I can finally feel it, and I'm just kind of amazed by that and appreciative of that. And so I just wanted to share that.
Just to echo a little bit, Chris, that's beautiful what you just said. Just to echo a little bit, I've been studying Longchenpa, as maybe a lot of us here, for some time, and it's just such a powerful teacher for us as we sit our meditation, how we do our sitting meditation. And probably some of the most powerful teachings on the Four Immeasurables come from Longchenpa. His wisdom about how they are the expression of primordial mind. He presents it almost as a fruitional practice rather than
Actually, he calls it bodhicitta.
Yeah.
That's how he refers to Rigpa.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Chuying Zud, or basic space of phenomena, that's refers to the bodhicitta is the absolute sense of non-dual mind.
Thank you, Christy. Where's Marcella? Let's
Thank you.
see.
Where's Marcella? She just ran.
Do you want to say?
Oh, there she is in the corner.
Hi, Mike. I just wanted to quick mention, and I don't want to destroy the beautiful story you taught us about when you were in New York City to lose the bubble wrap.
Right, I remember that. Story.
Isn't that fantastic, though? To relax, just stop worrying about every little thing and lose the bubble wrap. The parents that put their children in the bubble wrap
Right.
so they wouldn't get hurt west in Central Park. It was just one of my favorite stories, and I always think of that one a lot.
Yeah.
To relax and.
Well, I think, Marcella, I think this, one of the reasons why I like telling that story is because the parents' intentions were noble, but their fear was overcoming exactly what their intention was. And they were inadvertently creating the very disaster, or at least provoking the disaster they were looking to avoid. And these practices that we're talking about here, these four immeasurables, are what happens when you take the bubble wrap off. You expose yourself to reality and you fall in love with it. That's why you're kind. Your heart breaks because you see suffering. You laugh because you see a child trying to eat an ice cream cone that keeps falling on the ground. But this is what happens when the bubble wrap comes off, and it's organic and it's real. So thanks for remembering the bubble wrap story.
Of course, and thank you, Mike. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for joining. I know we're at our hour here. Is there any? Looks like we have a lot of books we can all look into for this. Is there anything you didn't get to say that you wanted to mention?
Did we get that up? Is that up there?
Yeah, right. I think Sandra found that.
I put it up there.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, Sandra.
put it right to it.
As usually, quietly keeping the fort down. So, thank you. Holding the fort. Okay.
Thanks for this was exciting, and this came from, was it Mary? Mary, did you give me this idea? Take credit if not. Gave us the idea for this topic, which is great. And next month, Kaya Fruchtman. People know Kaya Fruchtman. She's Jeremiah's one of Jeremiah's daughters. Has been studying at Swarthmore and got very into studying Sanskrit, and asked her professor to come speak with us about Sanskrit.
Wow.
So we were working on that,
Wow.
and Kaya will be co-hosting. So there may be a bunch of people here that evening.
I also got.
They're starting something called Sanskrit for Mere Mortals.
Oh,
Which I
really?
like. Good
That's
title.
us.
Yeah.
But I also got the impression she got an A in her Sanskrit class. Just.
Good. That'll be fun. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
See what meditation can do for you?
Yeah, you can learn Sanskrit.
Nice.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Night.